أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Lesson number 211, Surah Ar-Rum, ayah number 41 to 60. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. Corruption has appeared throughout the land and sea. Why? بما كسبت أيدي الناس. By reason of what the hands of people have earned. ليذيقهم. So that He may let them taste بعض الذي عملوا, part of the consequence of what they have done. لعلهم يرجعون, that perhaps they will return. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that corruption, fasad, it has spread everywhere. ظهر. Where has it spread? On land and also on sea. The word ظهر is from the root letters ظاهر, from the word ظاهر. And what does it mean? To become apparent. What does ظاهر mean? That which is visible, that which is apparent. And also when something becomes obvious, when something becomes dominant. So, ظهر الفساد, what does it mean? That fasad has appeared. You can see it everywhere. It's not hidden anymore. It's not subtle anymore. It's obvious. It has appeared. And it hasn't just appeared, but it has become ghalib. It has become dominant. It has spread everywhere. It has overcome everything. And what is fasad? Fasad is the opposite of salah. Salah is when something is right, when something is proper. It is as it should be, and fasad is the exact opposite of that. Meaning, when something is not as it should be. So fasad is understood as imbalance. When something is moved from moderation and there is an imbalance in it. When something is taken to an extreme and as a result it does not function properly as it should be functioning. It does not bring benefit. Instead, what does it bring? Loss. So primarily, what is fasad? Mischief making, imbalance, when something is taken to an extreme. And this fasad can be of two types. If you think about it, it can be of two types. First of all, it can be tangible, that which is physical. So for example, destroying buildings, cutting down trees, pollution. This is what? Things getting out of balance. There is no moderation. Things are being taken to an extreme. And this is also intangible. How? That it could be in the akhlaq of people, in the deen of people, behavior of people, manners of people, which is why they don't respect one another. What do? They kill one another on the slightest of things. They have hard hearts, harsh words, harsh language. They don't do what they're supposed to do. And as a result, there is imbalance. If you look at it, for any organization to work, to function properly, what do you need? That things should be done in a timely manner. And whatever has to be done is done. It's not left out. Because even if one thing is left out, then will there be imbalance? Of course there will be. Because everything has a domino effect. You don't do one thing, others will get affected. You do one extra thing, others will get affected. And as a result, there's fasad. There's corruption. Things will not function as they should be functioning. So, ظهر الفساد. Fasad has spread. And as a result, there is no peace. There is disease, there are troubles, there is unhappiness, crisis, pollution. It has spread everywhere. Where? فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. In land and also sea. Bar refers to land, and over here it is referring to the Ahlul Bar, the dwellers of land, whether it is people or it is animals or birds or insects. They're getting affected. And it's not just the Ahlul Bar, but also the Bar itself, the land itself. Like for example, crops getting affected, forests getting affected. Similarly, not just the forest, but different parts of the earth, what's happening to them? They're getting affected. فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. And what does bahr refer to? Not just the sea, but any body of water. So any part of the earth that is covered by water, whether it's in the form of a lake, or it is in the form of a river, a sea, an ocean, any kind of body of water. So fasad has also spread where? Wal-bahri. And al-bahr, it includes the ahlul bahr, the dwellers of sea, of water. So whether it is the fish in the sea, or it is the different creatures that live in the water, even they're getting affected. And not just the creatures that live on water, but the creatures that travel by water. So for example, human beings. As they travel, they witness many difficulties. They see many difficulties. Why? Because of the fasad that has spread in the bahr. And it's not just the ahlul bahr, but also the bahr itself. The water itself, the sea itself, even that has been covered with corruption. And why is it so? Why has fasad spread everywhere? It is so, bima kasabat aydin nas. It is because of what the hands of people have acquired. It is because of what the hands of people have earned. Aidi is a plural of yad. Now if you think about it, people perform actions with many parts of their bodies. Isn't it so? With your hands, with your eyes, with your feet. But why are the hands mentioned in particular? Why? Because most of the actions, they're performed by the hands. And hands, what do they represent? Action, work. Isn't it so? Whenever you have to do anything, don't you have to use your hands? Anything at all. Even if mainly you have to do that action with your mouth, let's say, but you still use your hands. Isn't it so? You still use your hands. So hands, they represent actions. And your mind commands, and your hands, they perform the work. So bima kasabat aydin nas, because of what the hands of people have acquired, meaning because of what the people have done themselves. This is why there is fasad. It's not that Allah has been unjust to people. No. It's because people have done these actions themselves. This fasad that they witness, this fasad that they see is a result of their own actions. And why has Allah allowed this fasad to spread? لِيُذِيقَهُمْ, so that He can make them taste. بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا, part of what they have done. Meaning part of the consequences of the actions that they have done, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows that consequence where? In the dunya. You understand? That people have done so much wrong that only a fraction of the consequence of that wrongdoing is what? The fasad that you see everywhere, on land and on sea. Now imagine the real consequence of these actions. Imagine the real consequence of these actions. That if the fasad, the decay, the corruption that you see around you is just a fraction of it, is just ba'd, then what is complete? بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا. And why does Allah show this consequence? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that people will return. Meaning people will repent, they realize their mistake, they turn to obedience by abandoning the doing of evil deeds. So we learn from this ayah that as a result of man's own sins, as a result of man's own crimes, as a result of his own extravagance, there is corruption everywhere, on land and also on sea. Meaning that people have done so many things and such things that this earth is getting affected because of that. That this earth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made livable and sustainable for both human beings and other creatures, this earth is getting affected. Why? Because of the actions that people have done. And the consequences, who sees them, who faces them, who suffers because of them? People and the rest of the creatures. Both of them suffer from these consequences. Whenever a person will go to an extreme, there will definitely be fasad. And as a result of this fasad, there will be chaos, there will be disorder, there will be unrest in society, there will be pollution, There will be tangible fasad and there will also be intangible fasad. And this we can see at a small scale and also at a large scale. You understand? At a small scale, for instance, if people who are living in a house, who are working at an institute, they don't do what they're supposed to do, aren't there going to be consequences? Isn't there going to be chaos? Isn't there going to be confusion? Of course there will be confusion. If one person does not show up for their work, isn't the whole system going to get affected? Of course. Like for example, just imagine, if the person at the front desk, they don't show up for their work. Is that going to lead to fasad? Of course. If the person who manages the online classes, if they don't show up, is it going to affect people? Definitely it will. So when people don't do what they're supposed to do, when there's an imbalance, then what does it lead to? Fasad. It leads to disorder. It leads to unrest. And this is at a small scale and also at a large scale. At a large scale, when we witness pollution, when we witness so many wrong things around us, this is a result of what? Imbalance. And if there is disorder in society, it's not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unjust to people. Because many times when people see chaos everywhere, when people see disaster, who do they blame? Allah. They say, God is supposed to be merciful. What's happening? How come so many people are dying? How come so many people are hungry? How come there's so much injustice? This is not because Allah is unjust. This is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given freedom to people. Go ahead, do whatever you want, and suffer the consequences of your actions in the dunya even. So, what we suffer in this world is a consequence of what? Our own actions. And we see that today, people they experience many, many problems, such as global warming, problems related to pollution, whether it's in the land or water or air, and so many diseases which are a result of that. Isn't it so? Respiratory diseases, heart diseases, so many diseases which were completely unknown before. And now all of a sudden, every other person has them. Allergies. Every person has some major problem in their family or the other. Which is why sometimes you go to the doctor, they ask you a list of questions. Isn't it? Does any person in your family have diabetes? Does any person in your family have this or this or this? Why? This is a result of our own deeds. This is a result of our own actions. And as a result, there is absolutely no peace in the society. There is no comfort. There is no peace of mind. No peace of mind at all. Like for example, if you think about it, the kind of foods that people eat, the kind of foods that are produced, and what people eat, it has such a terrible effect on them. Such a terrible effect on their body. I remember I watched this documentary once. I've forgotten the name, but basically it was about people who suffered from type 2 diabetes. They were taken into a program for 30 days. And without any medication and without any insulin, they just changed their diet, and what happened within 30 days, all of them were doing so much better. That people who were taking so much insulin, they weren't taking any insulin whatsoever. People who were taking 18 medications daily were not even taking one medication. And this was not by, going through a lot of treatment and putting a lot of stuff in your body. It was just by eating raw food, plain food. That's all that they were eating. Vegetables, grains, that's all they were eating. And they were out in fresh air. And as a result of that, it affected their mood, it affected their body, it affected their blood sugar levels within 1 month. So just imagine the kind of effect that our food has on our bodies. Sometimes read the ingredients. Read about the food that you're putting into your system. What is it that you're eating? Because it definitely has an effect on your body. Little children are suffering from so many major diseases. Why? This is a result of our own deeds. There's corruption everywhere, disorder everywhere, and as a result there's no peace in the land. No peace anywhere at all. And we see that this corruption is caused by who? People themselves. People themselves. And mainly, this fasad is caused by what? Disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Disobedience to Allah. Because, for example, in businesses, when people cheat one another, when they write wrong things on the label, on the box. For example, this juice is not from concentrate, but you wonder, why is it that every time you drink that juice, it always tastes the same? If it wasn't from concentrate, then it would not always taste the same. And if it wasn't from concentrate, it would not last for so long. Think about it. You take fresh juice out yourself. Can you keep it in the refrigerator for 20 days? You can't. The color will change, the taste will change. Isn't it so? So when people write such deceiving things, right? Such deceiving statements, this is what? Khiyana. This is what? Kadhib, lying. Cheating other people, lying to other people. And isn't this an act of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Of course it is. Act of disobedience. So mainly fasad is caused by what? Disobedience to Allah. And when a person disobeys Allah, then he sees the consequences of that in this dunya, and he will definitely see the consequences of that in the hereafter. The full jaza, the full consequence will be where? In the akhirah. Now the question is that why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not let people taste the complete jaza of what they have done in this dunya? You understand? You understand the question? That if somebody has done wrong, if somebody has cheated the other person, how come they don't get the full jaza in the dunya? Shouldn't they be punished? Why should their punishment be delayed for so long? It's quite possible that the person will repent, because over here what do we see? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. That this dunya is not the place of jaza, but what is it? It's a place of action. So when a person is made to see a little bit of consequence, what happens? Immediately he realizes, maybe I've done something wrong. I need to change my ways. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. He does tawbah. And the actual jaza, the darul jaza is what? The hereafter. Dunya is not darul jaza. Dunya is darul amal. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to punish people for the wrong that they do in this dunya, then what would happen? No one would remain. In Surah An-Nahl, ayah 61, we learn, وَلَوْ يُؤَاخِذُ اللَّهُ النَّاسَ بِظُلْمِهِمْ مَا تَرَكَ عَلَيْهَا مِنْ دَابَّةٍ وَلَكِنْ يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ إِلَىٰ أَجْلٍ مُسَمَّى. And if Allah were to impose blame on the people for their wrongdoing, He would not have left upon the earth any creature. Not even one creature would remain alive, but He defers them for a specified term. So we see that if people were caught right away for the wrong that they do, then what would happen? Every person would be seized. No one would remain on the earth. Because if you think about it, each person, he participates in this crime at some level or the other. Isn't it so? You might say, no, I have nothing to do with those businesses, those big businesses, those big companies where they cheat people, where they lie to people. I have nothing to do with that. So why would I be punished for it? But this fasad, this mischief making, every single person partakes in it in some way or the other. You know how? Like for example, taking a long shower. Or for example, not reciting properly. Exactly, buying their products, supporting those businesses. And saying that, we have no other option. So every person takes part in this in some way or the other. And remember that fasad in this regard would be of two types. That first, in religion, how that a person sins, he disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a person sins, when a person disobeys Allah, then what does that invite? Difficulties, calamities. Isn't it so? And secondly, fasad in material resources. Now a person might say, no, I live a very organic life, and I recycle, and I don't buy extra stuff and everything. I use it properly. I have all energy saving lights in my house, right? And I have the new toilets installed in my house which use less water. So I don't partake in this fasad at all. But if you think about it, when a person sins, when a person disobeys Allah, then isn't that creating fasad as well? Of course. Because what is the consequence of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That a person is deprived of blessings. That barakah is lifted. Difficulties, they increase. So even if we're not, actively participating in one kind of fasad, in some way or the other we are involved in the other type of fasad. Which is why all the time, what do we need to do? Seek forgiveness from Allah. Do istighfar. Because sins, they have consequences. They have many consequences. And part of them is a fasad that we witness day in and day out. Now, there is another question. That the day of judgment is the day of recompense. Then why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let people taste even a little bit of the consequences of their actions? If jaza is supposed to be in the hereafter, then why do we have to face even a little bit of difficulty in the dunya? That لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that we realize our mistakes and we turn to Allah. Because it's only natural that when you suffer, what do? You reflect on yourself. Isn't it so? Let's say you're walking and all of a sudden you stumble. You hit your foot. You hit your toe. What happens? You think, oh my God, did I say something wrong? Did I do anything wrong? Did I look at anything wrong? What did I do? The smallest things even, they make us reflect on our actions. So if a person, if he has done something wrong, what will he do? He will repent. He will do tawbah. And if he was extravagant, if he was corrupting the material resources, then what will he do? He will become careful. In Surah Ash-Shura, ayah 30, we learn, وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ. That whatever strikes you of disaster, it is for what your own hands have earned. Whatever disaster strikes you, it's because of what you have done yourself. So people are tested with calamities. Why? So that they realize their mistakes. And so that before the greatest calamity comes, they can change their ways. They can take a lesson, they can improve themselves. In Surah Ar-Rum, ayah 168, we learn, وَبَلَوْنَاهُمْ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And we tested them with good times and also bad. Why? That perhaps they would return. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested people through good times and also bad times so that they return to Him. They keep turning to Him. They keep seeking His forgiveness. So, this topic of fasad being everywhere, on land, on sea, because of what people have done, it's a very broad topic. Any kind of fasad is related to what? The crimes that people have committed. Whether that fasad has to do with killing people, killing innocents, or it has to do with, illegal businesses and so on and so forth. Any kind of fasad, it has to do with what people have done. And this is why it's a very broad topic. But it has been beautifully summarized in this ayah. Any kind of fasad, tangible, intangible, it's because of what you have done. And what do we need to do? Return to Allah. Yarji'un, seek forgiveness. Change our ways. Go back to the basics. And that will bring peace in the society. Qul, say. Siru fil ardi. Travel in the land. What does it mean by siru fil ardi? Fi means in. Does it mean travel inside the earth? Dig a tunnel or go inside? Siru fil ardi. Fi over here gives the meaning of ala. Okay? That travel on the earth, meaning throughout the earth. Siru fil ardi. And in particular, which land? The sites of ruin. Those places where the ruins of the people of the past are still existent. فَانْظُرُوا, then look, كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. How was the consequence of those people who came before? كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ مُشْرِكِينَ. Most of them were mushrikeen. This is an example of fasad leading to evil consequence even in the dunya. Type of fasad is what? Shirk. And when people do that, they suffer the consequences of it in the dunya even. So go travel in the earth and look for yourself. فَانْظُرُوا. And notice فَانْظُرُوا. One is that a person just looks and sees and he says, interesting, nice, bad, okay, move on. But the other is that you look, you reflect, you take a lesson. And this is something that is needed. That when you go and look around, when you go and look at the creation of Allah, when you go and look at the ruins of the people of the past, don't just see them and move on. No. Look at them, reflect, take a lesson, and then move on. Because we see that when the Prophet ﷺ, when he passed by the ruins of the people of Thamud, what did he say to the Sahaba? What did he say to them? That don't pass by unless you're crying. And if you're not crying, then don't go. Why? When you're crying, then that means you've taken a lesson. Correct? And when you're not crying, that means you haven't taken a lesson. It hasn't hit you. So taking a lesson is something that is essential. فَانْظُرُوا. And this is something that we must keep in mind, that whenever we, let's say we study some incident, we tell children about some story of the people of the past, we shouldn't just be narrating one story after the other just to increase in their information and knowledge. What should be the purpose? فَانْظُرُوا. Give them a lesson. عِبْرَةً. That a person must extract a lesson for himself. Because without extracting the lesson, then that is just mere information, which is not going to change you in any way whatsoever. So فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. How was their consequence? Look at their ultimate end. That they were destroyed for their shirk. كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ مُشْرِكِينَ. Most of them were mushrikeen. What does it show? That shirk is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like at all. That the people of the past, when they did shirk, look what happened to them. They were destroyed, they were finished. And we see that shirk is so disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that even the Prophet ﷺ was told that لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. That if you did shirk, your deeds would be wasted. This is how much Allah dislikes shirk. And if you look at it, the people of the past, whenever their ruins are excavated, whenever you go and look at whatever has been extracted of the ruins, what do you find? In almost any civilization of the past, what do you find? Amongst their dishes and amongst their different things that they had made, their jewelry, what do you find? Idols as well. Images as well. Objects that people worshipped. كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ مُشْرِكِينَ. This is a reality. It's a fact that most of them were mushrik. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ. So direct your face. لِلدِّينِ الْقَيِّمِ. Toward the correct religion. أَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ. We have read this earlier as well. What does it mean? That focus completely on this. Don't move from it. أَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ الْقَيِّمِ. Direct your face toward the correct religion. Meaning, do what you're supposed to do. Do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated on you. Stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden you from. أَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ الْقَيِّمِ. And do this مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ يَوْمٌ. Before there comes a day. Which day? لَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. There is no returning of it from Allah. Marad, from the root letters, Ra, Dal, Dal. Rad. And what does Rad mean? To return. And marad, what kind of a word is this? Over here it's masdar. That there is no repelling it. There is no turning away of that day, min Allah, from Allah. Meaning, that day, once it comes, it cannot be averted. And once a person enters that day, he cannot go back. It's a point of no return. لا مرد له من الله. يومئذ يصدعون. On that day, the people will be divided. They'll be split up. They'll be separated. يصدعون is from the root letters صاد, دال, عين. So what do we see over here in this ayah? That how can a person come out of fasad, whether it's tangible or intangible? How can a person leave it? How can a person get out of it? How can a person save himself from its consequences? By directing his face toward the correct religion. That do what you're supposed to do. Because when a person follows a religion properly, then that will put an end to a lot of fasad. For example, one simple thing. This religion, it prohibits us from committing israf. Isn't it so? Isn't it so? إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. لَا تُسْرِفُوا. Clear prohibition. So if a person follows his religion properly, أَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ الْقَيِّمِ, then what will happen? Will he do israf? No. Will he be extravagant? No. And when he will leave extravagance, then what will that lead to? What will that lead to? What's the result of that? No fasad. No fasad. When a person will leave extravagance, then the result is salah. then there will be no fasad. Because, for example, when a person will use the water, he will use it properly. He will not waste. Electricity, not waste. Food, not waste. Buying, not buying excessively. You understand? So, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ الْقَيِّمِ, this is the solution to getting out of fasad. When a person follows a religion properly, then that is what will take him out of fasad. If you think about it today, we see that so many people are putting in so much effort to create awareness. Scientists and so on and so forth. To create awareness, to make people realize that change your ways, change your practices, change your habits, otherwise there's going to be a lot of trouble. Isn't it so? That within a few years we will have consumed all of this. Within a few years such and such will happen, such and such will happen. They frighten us, they scare us. But what happens? We get scared momentarily, and after that we go back to doing the same stuff. Why? Because the greatest motivation is what? It's the love of Allah, it's the fear of Allah. So when a person will leave israf for the sake of Allah, that will bring a change. You understand? Like for example, when khamr, when that was prohibited in Medina, what was the reaction of the Sahaba? What was the reaction? Immediately they stopped. They threw all their khamr. They didn't drink any of it. If somebody had it by their mouth, they didn't take it in their mouth. If somebody had it inside their mouth, they spat it out. Just imagine. But people have been trying so much to put an end to this fasad. Earlier, in the previous century, when there was the Prohibition Act, when people tried to completely prohibit khamr, it was impossible. Isn't it so? Similarly, we see that even these days, when New Year comes, when holidays come, what happens? They're showing advertisements on the television, signs up on the highways, police cars everywhere, big fines. But still what happens? People still do it. There's no fear of Allah. When there's fear of Allah, that brings change. When a person leaves something for the sake of Allah, that will bring a change. When a person does something for the sake of Allah, that will bring a change. Nothing else can. Because it's the fear of the hereafter. That's the greatest fear as well. Because if you see, the hereafter is mentioned. مِن قَبْلِ أَن يَأْتِيَ يَوْمٌ لَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. This life of yours is the only chance you have. If you spend this in creating fasad and suffering its consequences, then that's it. No coming back. This is the only chance that you have. No coming back afterwards. لَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. And also if you think about it, sometimes the fasad, the damage that it causes, sometimes it's irreparable. لَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. And يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصَّدَّعُونَ. That day, the people will be split apart. يَصَدَّعُونَ, as I mentioned to you, is from صَادَّ الْعَيْنِ. تَصَدُّعُ. تَصَدَّعُ الْقَوْمِ is when a people are divided into many, many groups. You have a huge group of people and then they're divided into several groups. Like for example, when you go for group time, what happens? You're divided into small groups, many, many groups. This is what the صَدَّعُ الْقَوْمِ is. And sadr is when something tears, rips, or breaks apart in such a way that it does not separate. It's only cracked. You understand? Like for example, a huge rock, a huge boulder. The sadr is what? Sadr is that when there's a huge rift, when there's a crack, but the two pieces have not separated from one another completely. Like for example, when you all are sitting in group time, you still are one class. Isn't it? You still are in the same place. Alright? From the same root is the word suda', which is used for a headache. You say splitting headache. I feel as if my head is going to burst. Does it burst? No matter what, a terrible headache a person may have, still, will the head break? Will the head split? No, it doesn't split. It doesn't come apart. So tasaddur, yasaddarun, what is it? That when something separates, in the sense that it cracks, there is division, but it's still in the same place. It's still together. So يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصَدَّعُونَ, this has been understood in two ways. That first of all On that day, the people will be split. The people will be separated. That after judgment, the righteous and the sinful, they'll be separated from one another. Where the righteous will be in paradise, and the latter will be in hellfire. We learn in Surah Ar-Rum, ayah 14 to 16, that وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَفَرَّقُونَ فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَهُمْ فِي رَوْضَةٍ يُحْبَرُونَ وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَلِقَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُحْضَرُونَ. In Surah Yasin, ayah 59, we learn وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ, that it will be said, stand apart today, O you criminals. So people will be divided on the Day of Judgment. But if you look at it, the literal meaning of the word, what does it mean? That people are separated, but they're still in the same place. So what does it really mean then? What's the stronger meaning? The stronger meaning is that the people in hellfire, they will be together in hellfire, they will be together in the hashr, but yet their hearts will be disunited. We see that people, when they will enter Jannah, what will happen? There will be salam. People will be sitting with one another. They will be looking at one another, facing one another. There will be unity. But the criminals, on the other hand, no matter how close they were to one another in the dunya, what will happen on the Day of Judgment? What will happen? They will be enemies to one another. In Surah Az-Zukhruf, ayah 67, we learned, الْأَخِلَّاءُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ, that close friends on that day will be enemies to one another, except for who? Those who fear Allah. That people will be in hellfire together. But what will be happening? They'll be cursing one another. Cursing one another. They're together in hellfire, but they're disunited. They hate one another. They don't want to see one another. In Surah Al-A'raf, ayah 38, we learn, كُلَّمَا دَخَلَتْ أُمَّةٌ لَعَنَتْ أُخْتَهَا, that every time a nation will enter, it will curse its sister nation. The leaders, they'll be cursing who? Their followers. The followers will be cursing who? Their leaders. This is something that we read throughout the Qur'an. So يَصَّدَّعُونَ. What does this show to us? That unless a relationship, a friendship is established on haqq, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this relationship will not last. It will turn into enmity on the Day of Judgment. It will turn into hatred. People will be split apart because of that. So for any relationship to last, what is needed? What is needed? The love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It must be for the sake of Allah. So the only foundation of unity is what? Tawheed. And any other foundation, it leads to disunity. Man kafara, whoever disbelieves, فَعَلَيْهِ كُفْرُ, then upon him is his disbelief. Meaning he will suffer the consequences of his kufr. He himself, not others for him. In Surah An-Nahl, ayah 25, we learn, لِيَحْمِلُوا أَوْزَارَهُمْ كَامِلَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, that they will bear their own burdens in full on the Day of Resurrection. Each person will bear his burden in full. No one will come and say, let me take it for you. مَنْ كَفَرَ فَعَلَيْهِ كُفْرُهُ وَمَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلِأَنفُسِهِمْ يَمْهَدُونَ, and whoever does righteousness, they are for themselves preparing. The one who does kufr, he will suffer the consequences. The one who does righteous deeds, then what is he doing? He's preparing a home, a bed for himself. عَمِلَ صَالِحًا, what's the condition of amal salih? That it's done with sincerity, with ikhlas, without any shirk, without any riya, and it's done according to the prescribed way, the way of the Prophet ﷺ, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us. So without riya and without any bid'ah. وَمَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلِأَنفُسِهِمْ يَمْهَدُونَ, they're preparing for themselves. Yamhadun is from the root letters mim ha dal. Mahd. What does mahd mean? Cradle. The bed of a baby, a child. And if you think about it, such a bed, Isn't it very comfortable? Typically when you see the crib of a baby, what do you see? Just a plain crib with a mattress on it. What do you see? What do people do? Okay, they put a lot of pillows, even if they're very unsafe. What else do they do? Yes, they'll make it as cuddly as possible, right? As comfortable as possible. Nice, comforting, soothing colors. Light green, light blue, light pink, right? Why? The baby probably doesn't even know. Alright? It's just us, we please ourselves. What else do they do? They put that stuff on the side. They put a very nice toy or something that hangs from up above, right? And the bed itself is very comfortable. The blanket itself is very comfortable. The pillow, even if the baby does not need it, it's there and it's very soft and comfortable, right? The material, the fabric is so nice and plushy and comfortable. Yes, they'll have knitted items, right? Why? Because a baby is special, isn't it? And a baby is very soft. And you need a very nice, soft, comfortable place for a baby. And any time that you place a baby in his bed, what will you do? What will you do? You will go and put your hand over it just to make sure nothing's under the sheet, right? Just to make sure it's nice and smooth and flat. It's comfortable. Nothing that could harm the baby is possibly there. This is what mahada means. To prepare a bed. To prepare a bed. Qurtubi said that mahad is used for a child's cradle, a child's bed. That before placing the child in his bed, what do? We level it, we smoothen it, we prepare it. So فَلِأَنفُسِهِمْ يَمْهَدُونَ. And it is said that mahad, mihad, this is the opposite of lahad. What is that? Grave. فَلِأَنفُسِهِمْ يَمْهَدُونَ. Those people who do righteous deeds, they are preparing a home for themselves, a place for themselves in Jannah. They are preparing a bed for themselves in their graves. You understand? فَلِأَنفُسِهِمْ يَمْهَدُونَ. They are preparing a bed for themselves in their graves. They're preparing a home for themselves in Jannah. When it comes to a bed, a place where you have to sleep, many people are extremely picky. They are extremely careful. Isn't it so? They will do so much research to get the most perfect mattress. They will try one mattress after the other mattress. Why? Because if your mattress is not comfortable, then what will happen? It will lead to back pain. It will lead to restless sleep at night. And people will spend so much money even on the perfect mattress. Correct? So, if a mattress of this dunya matters so much, if the bed of a baby matters so much that people will spend hundreds of dollars just to get that ideal bed, just to get that most cute, crib for the baby. So much money we put in, so much effort we put in. We wonder, this color or that color, this style or that style. Then what about the bed that we have to sleep in for perhaps thousands of years in our graves? What about that bed? What about the place that we have to live in for eternity in the hereafter? Doesn't that require some effort from us? Doesn't that require some work from us? Of course it does. Now, in order to get the most perfect bed in this dunya, you research, you spend money, you make money, you buy, you bring it home, and then you sleep on it. But in order to make the bed of the hereafter, to prepare the bed in your grave, to prepare your home in Jannah, what do you need? What do you need? Amal salih. Amal salih, righteous deeds. Many times we think that if I'm praying my salah, like I'm giving my zakat, I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't backbite, I try not to backbite, that's sufficient. Okay, you'll get by. But what do we see? That the more amal salih a person does, the better his abode will be. You understand? The more amal salih a person does, the better his bed will be, the better his abode will be in the hereafter. Now think about it. Somebody tells you, spend as much money as you want, get the most perfect bed for yourself. Get the most perfect house for yourself. Will you stop at any limit? Will you say, oh, I have one set of dishes and one set of cutlery and, a small house and one bed and 2 bed sheets. That's it. That's all I need. Will you stop there? You will never stop there. Never. If somebody tells you unlimited, spend as much as you want, no limit, and you're given all the coupons, and you're given all the places that you can go to and buy all the good stuff, and you're told as to when the sales are, will you not take advantage? Of course. So similarly, when it comes to preparing our house in Jannah, what do we need to do? Amal salih. Is there any limit to doing amal salih? No. You do what you are able to do, to the best that you can do, the maximum that you can do, and there is no limit to it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us many, many opportunities, such as the opportunities of the month of Ramadan, Dhul Hijjah, Sha'ban. That when a person performs deeds in these months, then they're very beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting, sadaqah. The list is endless. It's up to us how much we do, how much we spend, how much we want to prepare. Man amila salihan fali anfusihim yamhadun. Write this down somewhere, and this should be your motivation. That whoever does righteous deeds, then he is preparing for himself. He is preparing a house, a bed, and a boat for himself. Think about it. If you're traveling somewhere, and you know that you have to stay at a hotel, which hotel would you like to stay at? Any ordinary motel? No. Where would you want to go? A nice hotel. Why? Because the beds are good. Isn't it? Otherwise, if you go to any ordinary motel, it's quite possible you're sleeping in the night and all of a sudden you see bed bugs crawling all over you. So, when it comes to dunya, we're so careful. So when it comes to the akhirah, when it comes to the grave, aren't we worried? That not just bed bugs, but many other creatures, ants and scorpions and Allahu A'lam what all, could be there? What are we doing? What are we doing to make that bed a comfortable one? What are we doing? Man amila salihan fali anfusihim yamhadun.